Hi, I'm Liv and welcome back to the Book Nook. Here's a tip. Don't come home from work shattered, try and record a video, fall asleep, then go and hurriedly eat your dinner, and then come up and record a video on a full stomach. Whew. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing my little Vlogmas Q&A video. First thing I do want to say though is a hello to any new subscribers. The lovely Simon over at Savage Reads gave me a little shout out on his booktubers he's loving, booktubers you should be watching video. I forget the exact title now because I've kind of blocked out all niceness that was directed at me because that's what I do. So, but thank you to Simon, huge thank you for mentioning me in that video. Very nice things were said about me and I just fidgeted in my seat. So hello to all new people, hello, unnatural hello. This is my booktube video. I hope you find something to enjoy here. So I've only got a few questions, but you know what, that's quite nice because I can give slightly more in-depth answers. So I'm just going to crack on. So the first one is from Book Love in a comment on one of my videos. What books are your favourites from childhood? So when I was looking at these questions and sort of planning out my answers, I went up to my bedroom and looked through my bookshelves and realised and remembered that a little while ago, a good few years ago now, I had a bit of a book turnout. And it would seem that I got rid of quite a few books from my childhood, which sucks. So it's a point of sort of contention for me that really bothers me, that I can't really, I can't really remember much of my childhood in general. I've mentioned before I have an awful memory, and I'm not kidding, I really do struggle to remember things. And essentially I read a lot when I was a kid, sort of primary school, secondary school, and then when I hit high school I didn't really read as much other than sort of books we had to read for courses. You know, high school was always sort of like, oh, it's a tricky time, but it was, and I didn't really do as much reading in high school that I can really sort of remember. And then due to sort of circumstances and other things, when I was at college I didn't really read as much, got back into reading a bit more at uni, and then since uni have really got back into it. So it was a sort of a fallow period, as it were, where I just didn't really do much reading. But the ones from my childhood, and it was quite interesting because there are a few that I still got on my shelves, and then I was looking and I was trying to remember some others. So the first one that will probably be on most people's favourite books of childhood is The Hungry Caterpillar. There's something about The Hungry Caterpillar that I really identify with, particularly, but he was still hungry. So, Hungry Caterpillar, always a classic. Then, of course, there's The Jolly Christmas Postman, which I mentioned in my festive favourites. Loved this book as a kid, and I would read it even if it wasn't Christmas, because I loved it. I thought I had a copy somewhere of The Jolly Postman, which is just the normal one, but I can't find that anywhere, so I'm wondering if I maybe had that out from the school library or something. And speaking of, one of my absolute favourite books from when I was a little kid, from when I was in sort of reception, so what, 4 or 5 years old, is a book that not many people seem to have sort of heard of, and it's by quite an established kids author. It's by Jez Alborough, and it's one of the ones that just doesn't seem to be part of the canon, as it were, of Jez Alborough. And it was always in our little school library, like in reception, you know, it was basically like a box of books. And I'm pretty sure the reason a lot of my peers and a lot of the people I went to school with don't know about this book is because I always had it. It was never anywhere other than in my book bag and at home. And I read this book over and over and over and over again. And it is called Cuddly Dudley. I would like to point out this is not the copy from my school library. I have not stolen this. One of the very first books that I got when I started working at Waterstones was I made sure I ordered myself a copy of Cuddly Dudley. So basically, Dudley is so lovely and cuddly that his brothers and sisters just can't leave him alone. So essentially, it's about a penguin who... I just love this story so much. It's about a penguin and he's so cuddly that everybody cuddles him all of the time. And he gets a bit sick of it because he doesn't get any time to himself, he doesn't get any peace and quiet, everyone's always after cuddling him. So he runs away and then he realises he misses being cuddled, so he comes back. And it's just adorable. And the pictures, I mean, honestly, I don't know why this one isn't more popular than it is. Look at the penguins. So yeah, it's us, said his brothers and sisters. We followed your waddle prints. Waddle prints. Can we come in? And no, you jolly well can't, said Dudley. I don't want to huddle and waddle and cuddle. So for the very last time, stop following me around. He slammed the little wooden door and was alone once more. And it's just adorable. I have lots of childhood memories of reading this one over and over again. And I'm sure my mum does as well. Put that bloody book down, pick a different book. Other ones that I loved from when I was younger would be The Borrowers by Mary Norton. I absolutely loved this version of it as well, the TV, no, the film version, sorry. And I love Arrietty, and I just love this book, love The Borrowers, so that's another favourite. Obviously, Harry Potter. I'm not going to bring down all my Harry Potter books and show you these, you know what Harry Potter looks like. That was obviously one of my favourites as a kid. My mum will always pride herself on getting me into Harry Potter because I didn't start reading it when it sort of first came out. She got me Philosopher's Stone just as kind of like an extra little birthday or Christmas present one year, and I absolutely loved it. So then, thus the thing began for me, so she will constantly pride herself on getting me into Harry Potter, and it's fair enough. Without her, probably wouldn't have got into it at the right time, and probably wouldn't have been such a big thing. Then there's things like Redwall, which I absolutely loved, and again, I don't seem to have any of my copies of those anymore. My brother had a lot of them, and they were hand-me-downs, and that's how I got into it, because it was one I picked with, oh, what was it called? You know when, like, Book Trust came into schools and you had like an evening and you could come and pick books and things. I think I got one there, absolutely loved it, and then found out that my brother had a load, so I got those hand-me-downs as well. And then there was a series, what was it called? I remember the first one was Shadow of the Minotaur, and it was about this kid who, his dad was like a software developer or something, and he had a copy of the game, but it was like an immersive thing, and you go in and he was in sort of the Greek world of myth, and yeah, Shadow of the Minotaur, and then Warriors of the Raven, which was like Norse mythology, or was that the last one? Yeah, there was one in between. Vampire Legion. There's one about vampires in the middle. That one wasn't so good, but Shadow of the Minotaur, I think I read to death, and Warriors of the Raven as well. Absolutely loved it. Who was that by? Oh, if anyone can remember, tell me please. And then the other sort of trilogy that I've got here that I really, really do love, and I've recommended to a few customers in work, and I'm really pleased that it is still in print. And it's one that I think I am going to give a reread soon, because I have such fond memories of reading it. Fleabag and the Firecat as well. Sorry, that's another one. That's totally not this series, but Fleabag and the Firecat I loved as well. Anyway, back to this trilogy. I really have fond memories of reading it, and that is the Wind on Fire trilogy. So you've got The Wind Singer, then Slaves of the Mastery, and the final one is Fire Song. And these, I get a bit confused, but it was something to do with a society that was sort of, it was kind of like an early Hunger Games in a way. Like, I wonder if Suzanne Collins read these, because it was based on a society that kind of was in circles around this central sort of tower, and each circle was a different kind of class, and the further out you went, and then it was something to do with this tower, and the wind came through this tower, and you could move up and down the levels, and I just remember being absolutely captivated by it. So I really do think I'm going to give them a reread at some point. So yeah, those are some of my favourite books from childhood. There will be more. I mean, Sweet Valley High, I absolutely loved. There was something, because I think I read it, you know, a bit younger than I probably should have done, and they were sort of like, I think they were my sister's books, and yeah, I was a bit younger than I probably should have been, and it was like, oh, teenage drama, is this what life will be like? It's not what life was like. Next question is from Brian's Bookshelves. It says, congrats on the 500, because that's when I started asking for questions. Roman numeral for 500 is D. Who is your favourite author whose surname begins with D? I like this question. First one that springs to mind is Roald Dahl. Absolutely love Roald Dahl. As a kid, obviously, who doesn't? And his adult short stories are just so dastardly and dark and mischievous and wicked and weird, and I love them. So Roald Dahl. Who else? Lydia Davis. Oh, absolutely love her short fiction. She's a writer who I'd credit with kind of getting me into short fiction, particularly as a writer. So when I was doing my MA, I went into my MA primarily writing poetry, and then a few of my sort of peers on the course were always talking about Lydia Davis, and so I read a few of hers and was just absolutely transfixed, and as a writer was kind of sort of transformed by that. So Lydia Davis, Roald Dahl, can't think of anyone else. Desperately looking at my bookshelves now. I cannot think of another single author beginning with D. Mentally, I'm trying to stand in front of the D at work. Behave. Yeah. No. Dahl and Davis. We'll go with Dahl and Davis. If you were a bauble, what would you be? Same with a book. Thanks, Simon. What kind of a question is that? I don't know. Maybe probably a fragile one, I'd say. Fragile one. Maybe quite spiky. Oh, yeah, quite a fragile, snowflake. I'm gonna own Snowflake. Yeah, I'm gonna own Snowflake. I'm a liberal snowflake. Fragile snowflake, so it's like quite spiky, but also like quite soft, so like reindeer velvet. And they shed their velvet and they go all bloody and weird and nasty and scary, but it doesn't hurt because they have no pain receptors in their antlers so that they can do that, I think. A fragile, spiky, yet soft and warm snowflake. If I was a book, let's face it, I'd probably be a whingy, slightly quite internal, not a very plot-driven book. I'd be a meandering pile of nonsense. And I'd be fine with that. What's your favourite thing about working in a bookshop and your least favourite? That's from Jenny King. My favourite thing is genuinely sort of the discovery and the learning that sort of happens, not just in terms of, you know, new books come in, new titles that you would never sort of hear of. Like hearing from customers, and when customers get really excited about a book and tell me about a great sounding new book, you know, the amount of books on my shelves that are actually ones that have been recommended to me by customers is silly. Well, not silly, it's amazing. And, you know, talking to guys that have been working there for years, who've got so much more experience, and just learning a bit more about sort of like the nuts and bolts of publishing and sort of patterns and things like that. And in terms of writers and authors and particular genres and things that I don't know anything about, and non-fiction, and, you know, learning stuff about, you know, how the cookery section works and things like that. So generally kind of the learning that comes with working in a bookshop is my favourite thing. My least favourite thing, I don't want to just say the horrible customers, but yeah, some of the horrible customers, or some not horrible customers. We tend not to get many horrible customers. We just get slightly awkward, difficult customers who are just a bit of a pain. And mainly the things sort of related to that are things that, yeah, I think my least favourite thing is not necessarily the customers themselves. It's the things we kind of have to fix because of customers, as it were. Not just like the flush in the toilets and things like that, but just things we have to kind of put right, that if everybody put things back where they found them, or if they weren't sure where, they can't remember where they got them from, just give them to us and we'll do it. Things like that. You know, finding books in weird places, things sort of knocked over, just silly little things like that. I don't know why. It's just really annoying because you can feel like you're ahead, and then you'll notice that a customer's taken like a stack of books out of the art section and just plonked them on the gardening table and everything is all weird. So yeah, things like that, but the good way outweighs the negatives, I think, for this job. I do love it. Is there an author you really can't get along with and gave up on their books? That's a question from Amelia Root. I was thinking about this one, and I think probably Murakami. And I know like a lot of people really do like Murakami. I mean, this year I read Strange Library and was a bit sort of underwhelmed by that one. A long time ago I have read a couple of his others, and I just don't remember being particularly whelmed. And it's strange because on paper he feels like my kind of writer, but in practice something about them just feels very, I don't know. I think, yeah, especially having now read Strange Library, I'm not really particularly bothered if I don't read another Murakami. Now here's the worst question. Thank you, Sarah Sleeth. Why would you do this to me? Do you have an all-time favourite book? I wish I did. I wish I could definitively say, yes, I do. A lot of it is tied in with memory as well, and this kind of fallow period of reading. I think there were books that I read as a kid that I've already mentioned, you know, all-time favourite books as a kid, but they're not necessarily all-time favourite now. And if I'd been a bigger reader sort of in between high school and college, I think possibly there'd be a book that was that real transformative one for me. But I've kind of missed that chunk, I think. There are a few that I would say are probably there and thereabouts, sort of all-time favourites, not a favourite. So Margaret Atwood's The Tent, I absolutely love that one. It's this gorgeous little mix of sort of prose, poetry, thoughts, and weird little bits, and I just absolutely adore that book, and I cannot find my copy. Then The Book of Disquiet, Fernando Pessoa, Harry Potter's, obviously, and then sort of things that I've read more recently, Gal Meets Boy by Ali Smith, yes, and Carol by Patricia Highsmith. Price of Salt, Carol, whatever you want to call it. Damn near killed me, that book. Something so beautiful about it and so tender yet sizzling, and yeah. So I don't think I could put a name, pick one single favourite book of all time, and I think that is just mean to ask me, Sarah. But yeah, a few favourites. And there's a few that I've read sort of this year or in the last couple of years that I think possibly could become an all-time favourite. But there's this whole thing of how much do I reread and things like that, which I have sort of mentioned. It's not a big thing in my reading world, as it were. And I do sometimes wish I reread more. And the few that I've read this year that could potentially become all-time favourites, I've only read them this year, so I have no idea if they will stand the test of time. I remember watching a really interesting video, I think it was Mercedes Bookish Musings, where she was talking about kind of the evolution of your favourites, and ones that were your favourites once upon a time. Yes, you may have a connection with them still, but may not actually be your favourites anymore, and there's a sort of a tendency to sort of stick yourself to books, even if they don't necessarily suit anymore, and there's a kind of fear of saying, oh, that's not my favourite anymore, or my favourites have changed, but ultimately, we all change and evolve as readers, as humans, throughout our lives, so it's natural that your favourites would change as well. So, yeah, here's another typical end to the thought that isn't an end. Pretty sure Nigel's latest Christmas Chronicles is going to become an all-time favourite, not even kidding. So yeah, that's my little Vlogmas Q&A sesh. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Maybe I'll do another one at some point in the future. Who knows? Probably. Once again, a huge thank you to Simon Savage for giving me a little shout out on his BookTubers You Should Be Watching type video. And thus, hello to any new followers, subscribers. Subscribers on YouTube, isn't it? Well done me. As I've said, lovely to have you along for the ride. Hope you find something to enjoy here with my silly little shtick, what's going on here, and I talk about books. Yeah, hope you find something to enjoy in this channel, and I hope I can live up to Simon's expectations that he has given you. So, not quite decided what my Vlogmas video is going to be tomorrow. That will depend on quite how dead I am after a full day at work tomorrow, and I am doing a 10:30 till 7, so I imagine that one will be quite late going up. And then on Wednesday, of course, Wednesday evening is Winter Cozy Reading Night, hosted by Lauren and the Books, so my Vlogmas video for Wednesday, I'm hoping to get that up earlier on the Wednesday because that's going to be my Cozy Reading Night TBR. So yeah, we will see how that goes. Best laid plans and all that. I'm working tomorrow and Wednesday, so it's going to be quite tricky. This is definitely the sticky end of Vlogmas for me. So this last week, I've only got one day off because we've done an extra day, and yeah, it's very, very tiring. Won't be the last one I have this week, but I already had a customer in today complaining about having to queue. It's Christmas. Clearly, she did not watch my Be Kind to Your Retailer this Christmas video, did she? No. Maybe I should get some little business cards printed with a link to that video, and every customer that just even slightly pisses me off, I should just slip them one of those with a stare. And you will see me tomorrow for some kind of video. Who knows what it'll be. I'll surprise you. I'll surprise me. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.